So if you feel like your content isn't landing, if you feel like it's not hitting the mark, it's because there's a disconnect or there's a lack of understanding when it comes to your target audience and who you're supposed to be creating content for. And it's really important, especially now because social media is so accessible. So many people are putting out content every day. I think like 95 million pieces of content, video, and pictures get posted every day. So you have a lot of competition. You're up against a lot of people. And you got to realize when it comes to your content, when it comes to social media, you're not just in competition with the next person, with the next influencer, the next creator, the next entrepreneur. You're in competition with Netflix. You're in competition with YouTube. You're in competition with Spotify. Everything kind of comes back to attention and being able to hold an audience's attention. And you do that by giving them content that inspires them, that entertains them, that motivates them, that teaches them new things, that helps them solve their problems. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 W's. The who, what, when, where, why. Yeah, five W's. Who, what, where, when, why of your target audience. All right, we're going to help you get very clear on this, because if you can get clear on who your target audience is, literally everything else will fall into place. So yeah, let's hop right into it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Marvell. I'm a personal branding and content strategist. I help creators and entrepreneurs get the proper systems and foundation in place. If you want to find out more about that, there's a link down in the description. You can go check that out if you feel like it. When it comes to your content, if it's not resonating, if it's not hitting, it's because there's a disconnect between the content that's being created and the audience it's meant for. Whether that's not getting the right attention from them, whether that's not giving them actionable advice, discussing what pains they're dealing with, what problems they're going through, what obstacles they're facing. Usually the content isn't hitting because it's not focused on those areas. So I'll start with the who. And if you stick around to the end, I got something that's going to help you get very, very clear on who your target audience is. So let's start with the who. These are usually referred to demographics. Not name, age, gender, location, where are they at in the world, what is their job, what is their income, what's their education level, like surface level stuff, giving you a very surface level understanding of who that person is. When it comes to the demographics, you don't want to be general about any of this. When you're defining who your content, who your product, who your offer is meant for, you don't want to be general. When you're general with your message, when you're general with your content, you have to water yourself down and you have to make it dull so that it's easy to understand for anybody. So when you start out general, your message, your marketing, it becomes general. It becomes vague. It doesn't have a target. It doesn't have clarity on who it's meant for. And when you lack clarity, it leads to confusion. It leads to misunderstanding. When it comes to your marketing, you want to be very clear, make it very, very clear who it's meant for, who it's targeted for. Let's say you had a car, right? You had a 1967 Mustang, mint condition, well kept, right? If you had a problem with that car, if there was an issue with it, and you Googled local mechanics or mechanics near me, right? And there was one mechanic that popped up. It was a general mechanic. He's like, we can work on any car, just bring it by, I'll give you a diagnostic, whatever. And then there was another mechanic. It's like, we specialize in working on and rebuilding and 1960s, 1970s Mustangs specifically. That's all they work on. That's all they focus on. Which mechanic are you more likely to take your car to? Some people would take it to the general guy, the person who could fix it, whatever. They probably don't care too much about the car. Just being honest. If you're just willing to let anybody touch your 1967 Mustang, you probably don't care too much about the car, especially if there's a mechanic who specializes in working on the type of car that you have. People prefer to work with a specialist. They prefer to work with somebody who they know has experience with this or knows they deal especially with this group of people or with this particular item, this particular product, whatever it is. If they know that you deal with that specifically and that's what you specialize in, people are much more likely to want to work with you than if you just work with anybody or you deal with general, right? So that's why you don't want to make your content generalized and you don't want it to be focused on whoever, because it doesn't give you that authority that comes with being a specialist. So after you know the who, you want to figure out the what. And the what is what they need, what their problem is, what their pains are, what their issues are. So the what, understanding their needs and the problems that they have. I like to call this their dreams and nightmares. Shout out to Meek. When a lot of being a business or being an entrepreneur is solving problems. That's basically all the business is a problem solver. It solves people's problems, right? So when you're able to dial in on your target audience and get very clear on what problems they have and what issues they're dealing with, and not just that, but what future they want, what goals they have for themselves, what life are they trying to reach. When you have a clear understanding of both of those, you can get very clear on what it is your audience is looking for. It becomes that much easier to create the proper content, to create the proper marketing, to create the proper offer, product, whatever it is. I see a lot of people, they get into it and they're like, oh, I have this great idea for a product or a great idea for a business, and if I create it, people are just going to come. People are going to show up. I know it's such a good idea. Nobody's ever thought of this. If I make it, people are going to come. It can work. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely can work. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. If you go in and create something and then try to force it on the people, and you try to force it into the market and be like, hey, I have this thing and you guys are going to love it, but you haven't done any research. You haven't asked any questions. You haven't figured out what issues they're really dealing with. That great product, that great idea that you have, it can literally just go to waste. It can literally just sit there and nobody ever look at it. Nobody ever think about it. Nobody ever want it, because you didn't understand what the market wanted or what the market needs or what issues they're dealing with, what pains they're dealing with, what problems they have. The best way to do this, I talk about this a little more in my target audience masterclass. The best way to do it, one of the best ways, is by doing surveys, literally asking people what problems they're dealing with, what issues they're having. You can use your Instagram stories, on Facebook and LinkedIn. I think they have an actual poll button, so you can create a post that's a poll and literally ask people questions. You can use something like Jotform or Google Forms and put together an actual like survey to have people fill out for you. There's a number of different ways you can get information and find out what problems people are dealing with. But before you create your content, before you create your marketing, before you create your offer or your product, you want to make sure that it's actually solving a problem, and a big enough problem for people that they're going to be willing to pay for it, and multiple people are going to be willing to pay for it. Understanding that pain, understanding those problems that they're dealing with. People buy based off emotion. They based off the pain they're feeling, based off the issues they're dealing with, what's stressing them out, what's keeping them up at night, what's causing them to lose sleep. That's what makes people buy, and then they justify it later with logic. They make it make sense later in their head. But if you can talk to the pain that they're feeling, that thing, that emotional driver that's pushing them, you'll have much more effective content and marketing, and have your products to be better, which leads to your content and your marketing being better and being more effective. So next W is when. When are you going to be reaching your audience? So you know how they say timing is everything, right? So timing is everything, especially when it comes to content. If you're a wedding photographer, it will make a lot more sense for your marketing and your content to be super heavy before wedding season, not during wedding season, because it's something that they book in advance. So your content, your marketing should be focused on getting ahead of wedding season, or staying in front of people who may be getting married. That applies to any seasonal business, anything where it's much more impacted, or there's a lot more business, a lot more customers, a lot more clients during certain parts of the year. Tax specialists, if you do hair for like prom or weddings and stuff like that, there's different seasons where you need to know, okay, this is when most people are going to be buying. Of course, there's going to be people in the off season, like people who buy year round. But if you know, oh, this is wedding season, or oh, this is prom season, that lets you know maybe I should have something specific here. I should have a prom special. I should have a wedding special. I should have a birthday special. And birthdays are year round, so whatever. But being aware of those different times throughout the year where it makes more sense to go heavier on your marketing, or when it makes more sense to just stay in front of people's face, not necessarily be promoting or pushing anything. Having something that you can push year round, and then focusing on your specials or your offers during those high points or those impacted times of year when you're going to get a lot more clients or a lot more customers for whatever it is in that season, right? Next W, fourth W is where. Where is your audience? Where are they at? So I like to relate this back to if you were selling skateboards and you were standing outside of a retirement home trying to sell skateboards. You might sell a couple. It's possible. You could definitely sell a couple, but you'd be much better off if you were to go to a skate park or a Hot Topic or like the mall or something where young people are bound to be, and like people who might be interested in skating are potentially going to be. It seems like like logical, common sense, but it's crazy how many people just kind of ignore the fact that maybe this isn't the right place for my audience. Maybe my audience isn't here. It's good to do research depending on who your target audience is, how old they are, their demographic, their ages, whatever. All of that is going to help you figure out what platforms you should be focused on. It's contrary to belief, like you should not be on every platform. You should not be trying to be on every platform. It's good to have an omni-channel approach, or like being on all marketing channels, but especially if you're just getting started, you want to focus on the one that's going to give you the biggest return for your investment, because content can can be so time consuming. It can take a lot. You want to focus on being really solid on one platform and having a really solid following on that platform. Then you can start to branch out, going to other places. So if you're focusing on Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I think that's the next one, then you will focus on TikTok. If you're more millennials, 25 to 35, maybe up to 40, maybe Instagram will be your best bet. If you're focusing on 40 and up, Facebook is going to be your best bet. If you're selling informational products, Twitter might be a good place to go. If you're more aesthetic driven, more beauty focused like that, Pinterest might be a better bet. There's different cultures and different audiences on different platforms, and they expect different things. You can't just go into it and expect to post the same content you're posting on Instagram and post it on TikTok or Pinterest and expect it to perform well, right? So you want to make sure you're putting your content where it's likely to be seen by your audience, where they likely hang out. That's one of the most important things, is understanding where your audience hangs out. So that way it's not, oh, let me go find them, or let me go figure out how to put this content in front of them. It's like, I know they're here already. Now I just need to put the content there so that they can see it. That makes sense. And then the last W, the fifth W, last W, is why. Understanding people's motivation, understanding why people do the things they do, or why people buy the things that they buy. And I put together a worksheet. It's called the Builder Avatar Worksheet. I created this for my clients and people, and for my target audience masterclass, which is available in the description. I put this together for my students and for my clients so that they can get clear on who their audience is and who they're serving and who their content is meant for. I want to say there's like 40 or so questions, maybe 30 or 40 questions that help you get clear on who that audience is and who you're supposed to be serving, who your content, who your offer, who your product is meant for. One of the sections on it is called Psychographics. These help you get into the values and the beliefs and the thoughts that people have. And then it also has a section for buying patterns or behaviors, which helps you get clear on like buying patterns, why people buy the way they do, or how long before they buy, how long they wait before they buy. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our buying decisions comes from emotions, comes from the pain we're feeling or the emotion we're feeling, whatever it is, it comes from some feeling we have inside. So the more you can understand why people do what they do and why people make the buying decisions they do, the better off you'll be able to position yourself and your content as a solution to their problem. But yeah, if you want that avatar worksheet, it's absolutely free. It's in the bio. Go ahead, click that. It's somewhere down there to say build an avatar worksheet. There'll be a link. You click it. Boom, you can get that absolutely free down there. Go get that, fill it out. It's very helpful. So the reason I put this all together is because I've talked to multiple business owners, multiple content creators. Like, one of the biggest issues I've seen is that they don't have a clear understanding of who their audience is. They don't know who their content is supposed to be for. They don't know how to get in front of their audience. They don't have a clear understanding of who that audience is. And that leads to so many problems down the line, from a lack of engagement in content, lack of clients, lack of growth. Like, it causes so many problems down the line. This is one of those foundational things, one of those fundamental things that you really need to understand to get very clear on who that person is, who that target audience is. So I want to make sure, that's why I'm making multiple videos about this, because I really want it to be clear who you need to understand, who your target audience is. You need to understand what they're looking for, what problems they're having. If you want to check out our 12-week program where I help you get clear on the systems that you need in place and get very clear understanding on who your audience is, the content they're looking for, and an offer or product that is going to make them buy and keep coming back to you and send their friends. Like, if you want to get clear on all that, I have a 12-week program, helps content creators and entrepreneurs. There's a link somewhere down in the description. Go ahead and check that out. But just to make sure we're clear, you want to make sure you know the who. You want to understand who the audience, who that person is. You want to understand what problems they're dealing with, what they need, what they're looking for. You want to make sure you're marketing and sending your content at the right time. You want to make sure you're sending relevant information to them at the right time of year, the right seasons, whatever it is. You want to make sure you're putting the content in the right place, going to where they are and putting the content there. And then understand why. Why do they do what they do? Why are they looking for your product? Why do they buy the way they buy? Like, get very clear on those. You want to get very clear on those. You want to get a very clear understanding. Make sure you check out the avatar worksheet. Very helpful. So yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one. All right.